Hello.
Hello.
Hi. And so we don't have to be we don't have to be on video as I told you.
Okay, sounds good.
And I will drop the questions just into the chat.
Okay.
We can have
How's your day been going?
good. Started very early. I play a game called Genshin Impact, and so that's what I was doing earlier.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just had a couple meetings, so thankfully I don't have class on Fridays, so we're good.
Oh, I thought I'm sorry, as a journalist, I did my snooping. I thought you graduated from.
Yeah, I did. I graduated in May and now I'm getting my master's.
Oh, where are you getting your master's?
University of Alabama still.
Oh, okay. I love that. I go to Spelman, so I mean, what I will say is if it was a university, most people would stay there.
Okay, yeah, I have a lot of friends that graduated from Spelman.
Let me see. Because this is also my first time actually scheduling a Zoom. I'm usually a participant.
Are you trying to drop something in the chat?
Yes, I'm dropping it in the chat, but also my computer screen is broken, so a part of my screen actually can't isn't visible.
Mm-hmm. Do you have them written down, or honestly, if you take a picture of whatever you have it on, you can also just text them to me.
I think I just
Oh,
said
okay, I see it.
these are the main ones for global girlhood. If you want to look through these, a lot of them are just cursory. So of course, if these are also things that we either cover or aren't, extended things to discuss, I also have these other questions. I just have to grab those too.
Okay,
But
sounds
yeah,
good.
totally start if you want. Um, so getting to know you, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, and so just for clarification, this is going to be a written article, so I don't have to like say things as I
Yes.
wanted. Okay, great.
It'll be a written article.
Sounds good.
Of
Yeah, my name is Alexus Cumbie. I can text it to you and spell it for you. I'm 22 years old, and I am a lifelong daughter of Birmingham, Alabama, sort of the heart of the civil rights in the Magic City. And I am an African American woman. As far as social media handles, I guess that's another thing that I'll just remember to text you because so you don't have to sort of dig through those.
Mhm.
Describe your. Is this how you wanted me to just go through this list, right? Or did you want to ask me these?
We can just go through this list.
Okay, I was just making sure. I was like, don't let me take over the interview.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry, as I had messaged, from this, if these things jumpstart some other thoughts that you have, you can of course just add that because it's written. The finalized, of course, I'll send to you and have you look over. So if there's anything you either want included or excluded, we can totally look over that. So this is definitely your time to say what you want to say about whatever you do and whoever you are. So, let these questions just be launching pads, if anything.
right. Okay. Um, well, then let me go back to number two, the city I was born in. I like to say that I am a lifelong daughter of Birmingham, Alabama, and born and raised there just because I hold so much pride in the city that I'm from. We have some of just the greatest theorists and the revolutionists and civil rights advocates that are just not only just shaped this country, but really just shaped the thought of what the direction of civil rights should go in. And so it's such an honor, really, to uh, have my bones come from that magic city. And so
Mm.
I just love the city of Birmingham a lot. If I had to describe myself in one sentence, being a woman, um, I think that I mean, honestly, I think that being a woman is everything, and people can interpret that as they want, but I think that women are so multifaceted, especially Black women. We're so multifaceted and just honestly capable of anything, and so I think that I think that yeah, I just really think we can do everything, and I think we are anything and everything that we want to be, and will always be, no matter who says otherwise.
Mm.
Tell me about your childhood and what it was like being a woman in your childhood town. I grew up in sort of a low income area, I would say, that was on the east side of Birmingham, Alabama, and attended public school. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is literacy rates, particularly because um, the state of Alabama sort of trades spots between the 50 and the 49th states of the lowest rates of education quality in America.
Mm.
And that's something that I sort of witnessed. I witnessed those educational disparities pretty early. And fortunately, I was able to go to a relatively better elementary and middle public school in the Birmingham public school system. But it was still wasn't the best. And I could tell for sure that a lot of the streets that were more funded, a lot of those schools that were better funded down the street just had a better opportunity at life with the resources they were given and the opportunities they had. And so because of that, I became a fierce advocate really of just educational advancement, educational equality, particularly literacy rates. And part of that just comes from being a woman in my childhood town in my school, and just really wanting more books that focus on the Black woman experience and the Black Southern woman experience. And so um, from there, I started writing my own sort of short stories and poetry that sort of put me and my lived experience as the narrative for my classmates and just people in my city who were so tired of reading books that didn't center our experiences. And so I really do accredit my public school education and my experience for the writings that I produce today, because all of those are rooted in the experience of being excluded. Can you think of a time you felt particularly aware of your gender and how it led to you be treated? Honestly, it's so interesting. So I grew up the youngest of eight, and I only have two brothers. And so I was always aware of, I grew up in a situation where women, quite frankly, were the majority in the household. And so things were ran in the household very woman led. Just having a strong Black mother and being the youngest, so having older sisters, particularly, that instilled in me the value of womanhood. And so when I think of a time that I felt aware of my gender, um, very few times have I been aware of my gender in in the sense of this is a hindrance. If
Mm.
anything, I think my sisters actually did a really, really great job and a very unique job of instilling that no matter what gender I identify as, um, uh, the capabilities that I have are innate and it's given to me. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but right now I can't particularly think of a time where I felt aware of my gender and how it led to.
Well, in reality, it's actually good because it was just your default. You didn't have to be aware of it. You just, understood it in a more normalized way and not necessarily, something where, oh, I'm a woman and maybe that experience that expressed that to me was bad. So that's actually a really good experience to have. I would say too, it's very interesting because I'm from Louisiana, so I definitely know about fighting for the lowest place in the education mark. I was like,
Mhm.
probably us two beefing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh my God. So I really relate to that too because I had not gone to it's very interesting. My pre-K and kindergarten, I had gone to Catholic schools in a more affluent New Orleans, but then that changed and I had gone to, the distinctly, oh, we can tell these textbooks they're beat up, old, the paint's chipping in the school. I went to
Mhm.
that type of middle school. And then my high school was affluence again, predominantly white in the heart of the city, all types of things. So I definitely too have seen, and I went to an art school where my discipline was creative writing. So it's very
Mhm.
um, but I also too relate to, literally not seeing yourself in anything, but also knowing that your city is very Black. So having to, exist in that conundrum of how are we all making this city, but not necessarily reaping any benefits monetarily or, service wise. So I definitely have been vibing with everything you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to being back from a Black city, I think one of the first times I actually saw myself reflected in a book that particularly hit me hard was about Birmingham, and it's this book that's really popular in the South, and it's called The Watsons Go to Birmingham, and it's about it's about racial inequality in America, and it's set in my
Right.
backyard. On some of the streets that they reference are like literally down the street from my house. And so I remember reading that book and being like, oh, so it is possible to like write about your story and be successful and tell the story of where you come from and who you are, and people actually care to hear that. And I really do think that like I said, going back to just my love for writing and my love for Birmingham, were it was ignited in that book particularly.
Mm.
Okay, I can't think of a time. Oh, your passionate work. What is your proudest accomplishment? I get this question all the time.
Really?
And yes, and honestly, I think what my proudest accomplishment to date is really understanding or beginning the process or intentionally beginning the process of understanding how Black womanhood should be celebrated and acknowledged in the
Mm.
world. And I think that all of the work that I do is influenced by the pursuit of discovering that. And the reason that I think it's such an accomplishment is just because it takes, in a world that just consistently is dedicated to beating down the Black woman, a
Mm.
Black woman deciding to love and celebrate and acknowledge ourselves, I think is honestly one of the bravest things that we could do for ourselves and for the world. And so Um, I can't say for sure that, I know everything about what it takes to be a Black woman, but I think that beginning the stage of that intentionally and reading the works of Black women and learning and sharing our stories is definitely the thing that I'm most proud to be a part of and have a voice in.
Mm. That's very beautiful. Because I definitely think most people would come from a very personal perspective. So to see yourself sort of as a person in a overarching, legacy is very interesting. And I think that should be highlighted more, especially in certain discourses, seeing, because I'm 21, so we're of course seeing the same type of things. And
Hmm.
for me, I feel like a lot of people are, you know, even if they haven't necessarily known better, self-gratifying. And there's no issue with that. But I think what your answer was very refreshing.
And I think that as I've gotten older and like have just gotten awards that I think a young me, I mean, honestly, I'll be honest. I've never really been one to care much about awards.
Hmm.
And I think that comes from, like I said, being the youngest of eight, where the attention that you get is so spread out that the chasing of self gratification is almost like I guess I'd say, you get a honor roll and it's like, okay, cool, And so I didn't really grow up in an environment where like awards were the end all be all. It made you the greatest person, whatever.
Hmm.
Honestly, some of the greatest things that could get you praise in the household was like, oh, like, you noticed that the trash was full and you took it out. Like, that was very humane of you. Like, that was nice. You know?
Right.
Like, it was community focused. It wasn't so me, me, me. And not to say that awards are bad, because of course, like, we want to be celebrated and things like that. But I think that a lot of the awards that I have gotten and achieved, that I just know people are, particularly in my university or just in my city, are just chasing after. I wish I could tell them the work is the point, not the award.
Right. Yeah.
And you can chase those all you want, but it's not going to give you the feeling that you're looking for. What's going to give you the feeling is writing something and someone says, "Oh, that like changed my life," or that changed my perspective. And then the awards will follow. But
Right.
um,
Always manifesting the accolades, but
and they'll come. They really are. If your heart's in the right intention, they'll come for sure. Who taught you the importance of empowerment and how did it affect your life? Hmm. This is another one of those questions where I read and I'm like, whoever I say, everyone else is gonna be so mad at me. I guess a couple of people, and these all came from, once again, Black women in my life. And first of all, I'm definitely gonna have to say my sisters,
mm,
in very tangible ways of being like, my sister always, I mean, the cliche of if you look good, you feel good.
yeah.
My sisters really believed in that, and I believe in that today because I don't care how unprepared I am. Like, if I got a good heel on, like, I'm good. I got this.
I agree. If I
If
look
the edges are laid, we got this. And so, I think that is a I think that because of how Black women, because of how we treasure things of ourselves and our bodies, like our hair and our skin and things that have not traditionally been celebrated in the mainstream, we have a greater appreciation, in our community for how we look and how we feel. And we have to play a different role in eliminating the dependence on societal standards. And so we create our own standards of how we feel. And so my sisters did a great job of allowing me to create my own standard of what makes me feel good. And so I can bring that into a room with me. And so if it's edges laid and a new blazer and heels, like, that's what it is. And that's what makes you feel important.
Mhm.
Even if you're in a boardroom of white people who have absolutely no idea what edges laid mean, you know, but
Right.
your edges laid and you feel good. And so in that way, that sort of concept really, the concept, the idea of defining your own beauty and how that is empowering, is just empowering. And then I guess the other person that I can think of that taught me the importance of empowerment, is, I'm really into politics, and I had the opportunity to intern under, Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who is the first Black Congresswoman of Alabama.
Mhm.
And she grew up in Selma, Alabama. That's um, a couple hours from Birmingham, also one of those really pivotal stages of the civil rights. And she sort of grew up in that era, um, public school educated, and ended up being the first Black valedictorian of her school. Went off to Ivy League, and has just done amazing things. And she's not one to sort of brag about those things,
Mm.
but interning under her, I really understood what it means. She has this saying of that it's your season of service. And those words I've always held really dear to my heart, of just instilling that no matter what I do, you're here to serve on earth. And so making sure that, like, your passion and your work aligns with the service that you're aiming to do, has just been one of those empowering sort of moments of advice that have just pivoted, how I just view life, honestly. Okay, how do you empower yourself? Um, I think I feel most empowered when I am surrounded by Black women. And thankfully, I have a strong group of we call ourselves Girl Squad. And honestly, hanging out with them and just being able to talk with them and decompress about our days and drink wine and sing some 90s throwbacks, like those are moments of empowering because we have intentionally created a space that is for us and by us and because of us.
Mm,
And so um I think that I feel most empowered really when I can just sort of take everything off and just relax. And when I say take everything off, I mean not have to take the performance that white America like
right.
demands of us and just just being able to be in the space with my girls and so if I'm ever really like stressed or something, just being able to call them and say, "Hey girl, like you want to watch Netflix? Like what's up? What are you doing?" Um those sorts of things I think empower me the most. How do you empower others? Um, uh, I think that one thing that I really, really strive for is this concept of being fully human. And I think that far too long, our role models have had to put on this persona that they were perfect and everything was easy and that it worked out and that becomes a very inaccessible narrative to the person who is not perfect and things do not work out for them.
Right.
So striving for the concept that I've called being fully human really just means being able to talk about the vulnerabilities of life and the failures that come with that and being accessible. So when people ask you for questions and advice, like you just being able to be there and honestly share your story um without sort of doing the public relations or the PR of making it seem easy. And so, if I apply for something and I didn't get it and someone goes, "Oh, how'd that go?" Like being able to be like, I didn't get it. Like, you
Right.
know, which is a thing that, it seems so simple, but it
It's
seems so simple to say it, but it's not because we want to tweet about the scholarship that we got and the award that we got. But so often do we, I mean, less often do we see people saying, I applied for this and like, yeah, I was qualified, but like, I didn't get chosen. Like, it is what it is.
and then
Um,
too, there's not necessarily community support when people aren't achieving certain things. So
mhm,
I definitely agree that, I would say even in the Spelman space, a lot of things are gratifying. And I would say that my high school self really changed in college because I had entered a space where you kind of are what you're doing and how well you're doing it. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
definitely, whew, I definitely understand. And also on social media, whether they're looking a certain way or having certain things, there's this mass, validation parade for those things where if you
Mm.
don't have those things, there's not even any attention on them, so there is a disparity.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many people suffer from the post-grad depression. It's because when we're in college, um, it's award after award, scholarship after scholarship, the application process. It's chasing after that next instant gratification, and then you graduate, and there's not many awards to apply for. Like, like just ask any of your parents or any of the adults in your life, like when's the last time you got an award? And that might say like a couple years ago, but like in college, there's so many things to apply for. There's so many internships, and fellowships, and scholarships, and just things that are temporary that give you that instant gratification and then you graduate and you don't have that. Um, and so having, sorry, my phone's blowing up. Let me cut this off. And
It's
so having older friends who sort of graduated before me to come back and tell me that advice of being, which is goes back to how my idea of my emphasis on awards has shifted. Just because them being like, these awards are nice and stuff, but like you graduate and they won. I mean, they don't really mean as much as we think they do when you exit the bubble that is the college experience.
Mm.
There's still accomplishments, but like you go to your job 4 or 5 states away and you say you got that award, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, cool. But a couple months ago, that was your entire identity. That's why people talked to you. That's why people wanted to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that shifts. And so you have to construct a new identity post grad. And so that's just my little spill on awards and all that stuff.
Mm.
But do you have any advice for girls who are also trying to empower themselves? Um I think that for any woman who identifies as being a woman, I say the best thing you can do is surround yourself by other women.
I agree.
Because there are just some things about womanhood that you just don't learn until you see someone else go through it, or someone tells you, "Hey, I go through that too." And so I think that there's something empowering when we talk about sharing our stories. There's something empowering about entering a space and someone has the same story and say you're not alone in that. And so I think the most empowering thing you can do, honestly, is to just surround yourself by um, women from all walks of life who are able to sort of and just learn from what they're saying in their lived experiences.
Mm.
Why do you enjoy and appreciate being a woman? I just think women are so much better. Oh my goodness. I just I do. I think we're just I mean, I think that it goes back to my belief that women are anything and everything. And you see us doing absolutely anything and everything. And very few times, um, I guess it's just very few times if I see something that a man can do that I'm like, a woman can't do that. Like I can't even think of one thing. So I think we are more efficient. I think we are more strategic. I think we are more loving. And I think that we are in the process of creating a world that is more equitable. And so, yeah, I think that I don't know if that answers the question, but I appreciate I just appreciate how we are and who we are and
Mhm.
who we will be. How can the international community help you in your community in a legitimate
And
way?
then these are I'll plug in the 4 more specific questions and then anything, of course, you'd want to add. This 14th one, you just plug whatever you do, and whatever you're associated with or whoever you want to spotlight.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to like text you about 14? Because I need to think about that.
Yeah, you definitely can hit me up about 14 or any other things you might want added or you think of.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note to text you about 14. Okay, the next one. What does art mean to you, and how do you engage with the world in your own work?
You kind of already answered that, but also in a way, um, just elaborating on maybe more of the service that you do, highlighting the literacy and programs, maybe, just more elaboration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am the founder of an organization called Literary Vibes Birmingham, and what we do is essentially try to increase literacy rates in the South, particularly in Alabama right now, until we're able to expand. But across the Birmingham and the Tuscaloosa, Alabama area, we are just focusing on ensuring that public schools have just honestly quality education, and also that our young children are giving a voice, particularly as poets. And so right now things are a little bit complicated with COVID because kids are online, and so a lot of our programming, we're still in the phase of recalibrating what that looks like when everything goes digital. But before that, we were having poetry slams where young adults and young artists could just come in and perform the things that they've written, and we just invite community members out to sort of listen to that. And I think that they're able to engage with the world in their work because, I mean, poetry is really just sharing of your lived experience, and people gather in a room to hear those experiences. And so a lot of the work that they had or talked about was influenced by the worlds that they lived, whether it was educational disparities or just mental illness or just our mental health and or just whatever really young adults were going through was represented on that stage. In a time of highly politicized content, what do you challenge or dispute in your art? Hmm. You know, I think a younger me thought the point of talking about how beautiful blackness is was to prove it to the world.
Mm.
But I think as I gotten older, I'm not really here to prove or really challenge anything. It's to say that I know this exists, and whether or not you want to be a part of it, it will still exist.
I very much agree. I learned that in high school. It was very much, especially with writing, the canon is Faulkner and all these white people. And it's like, that's fine. We read Toni Morrison and Zora Neale Hurston like twice. But,
Mhm.
overall, I definitely agree. There's this sort of idea that even they kind of actively, promoted that we needed to be aware of quote unquote audience. But of course, the audience is white people. Because if we're in workshops and you don't know what I'm saying, but everybody else does,
Right.
now I have to change what I said because you don't get it. So I definitely have relinquished, I let that go because that's exhausting.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to my art, that is very much a space where my audience are people that I'm not even really trying to convince that black people are humans or black women are deserving. They already know that. Now, as far as my political content, now that is a little bit more rooted in sort of deconstructing the ideas of racism and sexism and xenophobia and all those other things that exist. But and that's not to say that my politics and my arts don't merge because they very much influence each other. But
Mm,
like there are times where I'm giving a poem to the Black community, and there's times where I'm giving speeches to white Alabama legislators. And I'm very keenly aware of what I'm trying to communicate in those spaces.
mhm.
As an advocate for education and literacy, what do you find most important in engaging with communities for education reform? I think the most important thing is remembering that the children we have now are just as capable. The children we have now in these public school systems are just as capable as the person you have in that multi-million-dollar um,
I so
high
agree.
school. Yeah, like they're literally the same. The only difference is you have an investment in those other kids, and so they're able to reach their full potential. And so
Exactly.
often people think that all these kids are a lost cause and they don't have whatever spark that they're looking for. And it's like, no, if you took them in that same environment that you have those other kids in, they would probably surpass them. Um, and so I think we should start there. That deconstructing the narrative that they're incapable, because our kids are honestly some of the smartest people I've ever met. And they have brilliant ideas. They're just looking for someone to invest in those ideas. In a time of high stress, what wellness practices help you maintain? Um, I think my wellness practices are definitely um, journaling, um, praying, and reading the works of Black women, and hanging with my girl squad. I think all those sort of recalibrate my spirit in different ways.
Hmm. Well, I incredible. Well, let me see. Is there anything else? Because I mean, you talked about a lot of good things. I relate to a lot of it, especially The education stuff. Oh my God, Louisiana.
Mhm.
And there's programs at Spelman for increasing literacy rates with women prisoners, a part of
Mm.
an extension of the social justice program. And so there's some things I've um, encountered, but I hadn't actually really, I've been researching, let me say, what education reform truly entails, especially as it should be inclusive, especially in verbiage of, children of color, because sometimes it tries to just generalize schools need to be better, but it's like, say for the Black kids.
Right.
Say specifically that the schools for the Black kids are the bad schools. Um,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, I definitely. Are there any spaces or actually, because there was something I was thinking of to ask. Um, are there any spaces that you follow or any organizations that you keep up with that you would want people to keep their eye out on, or anything that
Um,
you think, any readings or anything you think would inform the masses?
yeah, so my cousin, her name is Stavana on Instagram, and she has this organization called Black Women Are for Grownups. Um, and she's from Birmingham, and she's an educator in New Orleans actually, and just does a lot of work surrounding Black womanhood and Black empowerment and Black love. Um, and I would honestly give you a shout out to them. I'll send you their Instagram page, but I would really just give it a shout out to Black Women Are for Grownups for Black women who are looking for a space to recharge and to re-energize themselves.
Mm. I'm sorry. Can you I was looking for a pin. Can you or I'm looking for a pin. Can you type your cousin's Instagram?
Yeah, I'm about to send it. Yeah, I'll text it to you.
So let me see. I know this is recording, but also
I know I said a lot as well. So, if there's any questions you need, definitely feel free to call me or send me a voice memo and I can send you one back and be like, oh, this is what I meant about this. Cause I know that
yeah, I definitely think
sometimes
I'll
you don't know what the
probably.
story.
I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
can finish.
Oh, I was saying sometimes you don't know what the story's gonna be until you.
Right. Yeah, like honestly,
I completely understand that.
yeah, I have a bad habit of like already conceptualizing the thing before I'm doing it. So that's also why I've been stuttering. I'm like, how am I going to do this? I'm already thinking of how I'm going to, compile everything. But I definitely feel as if I need clarifications about anything, I'll just ask and I'll be sure to, say, oh, you said this. Can you elaborate? Because sometimes I've gotten things from people and they're like, oh, we're curious about what you meant by my entire paragraph, and I'm like, I don't know.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, overall, if there's anything else that you would want to add, that's great. But I am very grateful for this interview. I can't wait to figure out how to transcribe this and have something to send your way. And did they let you know, or unless they told you otherwise, please let me know. This is supposed to be published in February. Did they tell you that?
No, I didn't. I actually think the only communication I got was like it was just a DM saying, "Can we interview you?" And if so, someone was gonna email me.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. Because that's they kind of have been revamping things. And so I didn't actually know what facilitation had been done prior to me contacting you. Um,
Mhm.
and so yes, I will contact to double check. But as far as I had been told, uh submissions are due the 30th and then things are rolling out February. They also said if people had a preference to get things out early, they could. So just let me know what you would want to do if you mind, or what your preference is.
Yeah, no, I don't have a preference at all. I say,
Okay.
I'm honored to interview with y'all, and so whatever y'all need to do, I'm here for it.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And so,
So,
yeah, if there's nothing else, then you can enjoy the rest of your day.
all right, you too. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.